Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode, and today we're going to be reviewing Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. So, this film to me, a lot of people don't like this one. A lot of people hate this film. Some even call it their worst in the franchise. No, I don't stand on that at all. I think that Halloween 5 is actually a decent film. But I will say this, it is kind of disappointing, because I talked about in the last review how I feel like if they would have went with the route of seeing if Jamie became like Michael, that would have been a lot more interesting, but they didn't do that. Actually, before we get into that, let's talk about some background information. So, like I said in the last one, I always get this one and Halloween 4 confused, because Halloween 4 is Return of Michael Myers, this is Revenge of Michael Myers. Kind of sound the same a little bit. So, Dominique Othonin and Gerard, he directed it. And he doesn't do a bad job. And then Michael is played by Don Shanks, a fellow person named Don. That's nice. He also played the Man in Black, who is Loomis's co-worker from Smith's Grove, who turns out to be the Man in Black, a part of the Cult of Thorn. We'll get into that later. And he's also played by George P. Wilbur in some stunt scenes. And George P. Wilbur played him through almost all of Halloween 4. After, I think, Tom Marga played him for the first little bit of the film. And George will come back for Halloween 6. So, overall, the film, I feel like, isn't as loved as Halloween 4. Remotely, everyone says this one ruined that whole story, which I guess I could kind of see that, because the box office is not too pretty. I believe this grossed $11.6 million, which was the least successful of the franchise. And it released on October 13th, 1989. So, about almost a year after Halloween 4. And a lot of times, this one came out the same year as The Dream Child, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the Dream Child, and also Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. This is probably my least favorite out of the three of those, because, The Dream Child is like one of my favorite horror films of all time. And I kind of messed with Friday the 13th Part 8. It's not as bad as people say it is. But this one has some good stuff to it. I think Michael's mask's better to start off. And I do like how this one, just like Halloween 1 and 2, starts off the same, we see Michael go down the river. And he gets, this hermit cares for him for a year. But the story picks back up a year after last. And unfortunately, Rachel, who is played by Ellie Cornell in both these films, she's killed off. And our new main character is Tina, which I feel like she gets a little bit of hate. She ain't that bad, but there's some parts of this film that are just really bad. The dumbest part is when the two cops, they play this clown sound effect, like this clown shoe thing. Just not serious at all. I don't know what that little bit of comedy was supposed to mean, but I do personally enjoy Loomis in this film. By this point, he's kind of manic. He's gone crazy, kind of gone mad. He's just trying to do anything he can to get Michael. And he even uses Jamie as a trap. But I'll tell you, the one part of this film I really like, honestly, is towards the end of the film, right? And so Michael has Jamie in this coffin, because he's turned the attic of his old house, which they turned into some castle-looking thing. There's some really nice-looking house. Does not look like the original one at all. I don't know what they went for this new design, but basically, she's in this coffin, and she connects with him sorta, and she tells him to take his mask off, and you see him shed a tear and stuff. So it shows he's still human, because when I get into the Cult of Thorn stuff, Michael is really just kind of a controlled entity sort of thing in this original timeline, but. So it's kind of weird to see Michael be a little human, and it's pretty cool, honestly, because this Michael Myers isn't the cold one, completely cold, that we know in other timelines. And that's a great scene. Now there's other stuff in this film I really don't like. They don't really, I don't know if they explain it. They don't explain it, but basically, Jamie's gone mute since Halloween 4, after the events of that film when she stabbed her foster mother, and it just kind of leaves her tired in the mental hospital the whole film, really, until that part where she goes out with her friend Billy. And we see Michael drive a car again. That's another cool thing. But the more I talk about it, I know it probably sounds unflattering, but I honestly do enjoy this film. But like I said, it's not as good as Halloween 4 to me. But yeah, overall, I think the Don Shanks again does great in this film, playing Michael. And there was a deleted scene too. I think Don Shanks talked about how it was a really good kill or something, or it's supposed to be a different person that was supposed to be instead of the hermit was gonna take care of him. But the way this film ends is the most probably confusing part, honestly. So they arrest Michael because Loomis lures him in and just throws a net on top of him, and he just gets arrested basically. So we see him in the jail cell, you know, with his mask still on, like playing with the chains. It's a very goofy shot, and basically the Man in Black, who we've seen in like shots before in the film, who's also played by Don Shanks. He comes in, shoots up the police station, like breaks Michael out, and then I guess kidnaps Jamie after. We don't see that on screen, but we find out in Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, that she's now been like kidnapped by the cult for a little bit. So to explain the Cult of Thorns stuff, I won't get too far into it this film. It's basically just the cult that Michael is a part of, I believe. But I'll get into the stuff about like why he was put in that cult and stuff in Halloween 6. But overall, I think this film would have really the one thing I think that you could have done to improve it is take away that really dumb clown sound effect thing, and also, you know, keep Rachel around to the end where she sacrificed herself to save Jamie. They kind of do that with Tina, but that's more of Rachel's role. I've heard that the director did not like Rachel or something, or he did not like, you know, a certain, like, he didn't like the blonde, so he was trying to get a different type of, I don't know if I'm right about that, but somewhere I heard that before. So if that's not true, then, you know, I apologize, but I mean, if it is, it's kind of sad, because she was a really great character in Halloween 4. Kind of sad that like she only had one film in the first 15 minutes of this one. And yeah, I do enjoy it, but when I think about it more, it's out of the Cult of Thorns trilogy, it's my least favorite. Out of 4, 5, and 6, I actually kind of enjoy Halloween 6, which I'll get into next episode. I love the aesthetic of that film. So Halloween 5 is a good, you know, unfortunately, like I said earlier, it did not gross that much, so the franchise would not come back till 1995, so by the time I review the next one, you know, the franchise is in the 90s, because it's actually the only of the big three that survived into the mid-1990s. Because, think about this, A Nightmare on Elm Street ended in 1994, but like the last real film in the continuity, because to me, Dream Master is obviously the last real film in the continuity. I feel like Freddy's Dead does not make much sense in the context, even though it's technically canon. So the canon, I'd say, really ended with A Nightmare on Elm Street 5 in '89. And then Friday the 13th's last real like canonical film to me was, well, I think you could consider Jason Goes to Hell canon, but you know, this is the one franchise that kept its name. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Besides, like, Halloween, unlike A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, that just, you know, dropped their names and stuff and just called themselves Jason or Freddy films. Because, you know, after Nightmare on Elm Street 5, they made it Freddy's Dead. Just dropped the Nightmare on Elm Street 6. They could have called it, but they didn't. And then Friday the 13th became Jason Goes to Hell. So that's kind of the same thing. So these ones definitely kept their energy. And right now, I feel like Michael's going to succeed. He really succeeds on, like, H2O. Because there was no more like Freddy or Jason around to really compete with him. But, you know, that's kind of like, that's a peak film H2O is. So we'll find out more about that in a couple episodes. But, you know, like I said, this is my least favorite of the big three, but I still love this franchise. And this is definitely the most like seasonal one. I know around Halloween I'm going to probably binge these films. I'm excited for that. But, yeah, overall I'd rate this film. I'm going to do a rating for this one. Probably a 7.9 out of 10. It's good, and I think it had really great ideas, but maybe it needed to be developed a little bit more. And, you know, just maybe keep Rachel around till the end, maybe. And also just try to show off more of that Man in Black character. He just basically breaks in there and shoots the whole place up pretty abruptly towards the end. But that's it for this one. I love you guys. Take care. Stay blessed. Christ loves you. I'll see you in the next one.